Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Prizm Art Fair 2021. This is our 9th edition of the fair. We are welcoming you today to our Prizm panels. This is our first panel of the season. And we're beginning it today with our guest panelists, Frida Isengoma of Kiza Art, LLC, with Rafael Chikukwa. He is the chief curator at the National Gallery of Zimbabwe. And also we have Odile Tive, who is the executive director of the Nubucke Foundation. Our conversation today is brought to you with the support of the Green Family Foundation, Diasporic, the Knight Foundation, the Miami-Dade Department of Cultural Affairs, the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs, as well as the Miami-Dade Visitors and Conventions Bureau. Today's discussion will be about the repatriation of African art to the continent and how African institutions are thinking about stewardship of African art post-repatriation. And the three organizations that are represented here by our panelists have done incredible work around the stewardship of African art, and we'll get to hear their perspectives on this subject. To begin, I'll give you all a brief introduction to each panelist. Frida Isengoma is the founder and CEO of Kiza Art, LLC. Frida is an entrepreneur and ex-investment banking professional who has worked in multinational and leading investment institutions in London, New York, and Cape Town. She has experience in establishing successful business initiatives, as well as managing investment funds. This includes her roles as a venture capitalist for an award-winning team at Close Brothers Group UK, an African investment consultant at Nile Capital Management based in New York. She holds both a bachelor's and master's degree in economics. In 2008, she was recruited by one of the leading investment banks in Africa, Investec Asset Management in South Africa. It was not long before she realized that her years as a venture capitalist inspired her to pursue path as an entrepreneur. In 2010, she launched Eye Candy Brow, South Africa's first and largest brow bar brand. For over 19 years, Frida's passion has been collecting modern and contemporary African diaspora art and has collected works from several artists across Africa and its diaspora. In 2015, after completing a course in curating contemporary art at the University of the Arts London, she realized that her passion for modern and contemporary African art deserved a wider platform, which led her to the creation of Kiza Art, LLC. Then we have Rafael Chikukwa, who was born in Zimbabwe and worked mainly as an independent curator for the past 10 years before joining the National Gallery of Zimbabwe in mid-2010 as the chief curator of contemporary art and its deputy director. Chikukwa is the founding curator of Zimbabwe's Pavilion, curator at the 54th Venice Biennale in 2011. He also curated other editions of the Zimbabwe Pavilion from 2013, 2015, 2017, the current 2019 Zimbabwe Pavilion at the 58th La Biennale de Venezia in 2019. Chikukwa was on a panel for the Art Basel Hong Kong 2019 and also a jury member for the Dakar Biennale in 2018 in Senegal. He has also contributed to a number of publications that includes Mobonero, Insights in Zimbabwean Contemporary Art, Zimbabwe Pavilion Catalogs. And then finally, we have Odile Tive. She is the current director and one of the founding members of the Nubucke Foundation, a visual arts and cultural foundation based in Accra, Ghana, the capital of Ghana, and the Wa Upper West region, until recently the last regions created in Ghana 30 years ago. She's a graduate of the University of Ghana, BA Honors, Computer Science and Mathematics. She came into the field of arts and culture after 10 successful years within information technology and finance in the UK. The journey within the art sector began when she set up the Black Swan Gallery based in London from 2000 to 2005 in an era when there was little representation for art from the continent in the UK. Her gallery represented artists from Ghana, Togo, and Nigeria, including works from Victor Butler, Kofi Sedorji, Gabriel Eklu, Seth Clotty, and Wiz Kodowar, among others. So with further ado, I will let Frida, Rafael, and Odile engage us in discussion about today's topic.
Thank you.
Is Rafael available? Is he on? No?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Rafael. Good to hear from you.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I'm sorry that in the dark, there's no electricity where I am, but thank you very much for inviting us to this panel.
And how would...
yeah.
So to start off, Frida, can you give us some perspective on what Kisa art is? I understand from our previous conversations that your organization is specifically interested in creating a fund that will support African-based organizations. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail, for inviting me on this panel. I'm really excited about the conversation, and obviously being joined by two colleagues on the continent is really exciting. Kisa has been going for 3 years now. The cornerstone of the business, we're an art investment specialist business. The cornerstone of the business is art investment vehicles. The first one is an African and Diaspora art investment fund, where art is the asset. So that's the first fund that we're launching with. We're currently in the fundraising process. Other parts of the business are focused on the wider ecosystem, in particular research and other projects that are collaborating with institutions, mainly on the ground on the continent and in the diaspora, to basically look at how we can develop a fully functioning ecosystem within the African and diaspora art space.
Wonderful. And how does your own personal collecting journey inform your interest in having started this fund?
Yeah, I mean, I've been collecting for a long time, and it was my way because I absolutely adore art. I wanted to be an artist, and it was my way of keeping in touch with my passion for art. And when I started collecting, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, there was, to find Black artists to buy works, because we were not represented in galleries, was very difficult. So it meant sort of searching, going into artistic communities in London, and going to final year art shows and finding artists. And when I moved to South Africa to work for Investec, it was easier then because in South Africa they had a deeper infrastructure, obviously for African artists, like the Joburg Art Fair, the Biennale, the Cape Town Art Fair, and really fantastic art community. So it was easy to collect work. Plus I was traveling around the continent. So after a few years of doing that, I sort of started talking deeper to artists, mentoring them, talking to curators, and sort of seeing what was needed on the ground in terms of ecosystem development, but also in terms of investing in art. We don't have as many collectors as we should do within our communities. That's a process. You're doing wonderful work at Prizm in nurturing that, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And so one of the glaring gaps was actually art investment itself, and investing deeper within our communities from a collection point of view, but also from an ecosystem development point of view, investing in actual businesses that specialize in African and diaspora art. So Kisa was really born out of a need for to fill a gap within the market, a need to add value to the market. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And art investment is a crucial part of ecosystem development, because every ecosystem functions like an economy and it needs investment. You know, every part of it needs investment, whether you're purely looking at it from an asset play or whether you're looking at it from how do we invest in businesses and grow them and scale them. Investment is critical. And so what we're doing is trying to sort of put eyes on the African and diaspora art ecosystem and hopefully get more investment, whether it's from a collector point of view or whether it's from a VC or other investment vehicle point of view, where we actually invest in the businesses that we do have that are focused on our ecosystem and grow them from there.
And your comments sparked another question. So how do individuals who are interested in investing in your fund do so, so that you can then distribute those funds responsibly to businesses who are functioning in the creative economy?
Yeah, sure. So the current fund is actually investing in art as the asset. So it's really just a collection of significant work. So that's a slightly different portfolio to what you'd normally see with a private equity or a VC portfolio. At some point, we would like to start an ecosystem fund, but this one is purely with art as the asset. I've got details. I can't talk in detail about it. Unfortunately, the laws don't allow me to, but I've got some information on the website, and people are welcome to send me an email, and I'll be able to talk about it in more detail.
Fantastic. And I guess I can also ask you, as I will also ask the other panelists, since the focus, or one of the focuses of this panel, is what our perspectives are on, say, this conversation around the repatriation of works back to Africa, back to African institutions. What are some of your feelings and insights on recent diplomatic moves towards repatriating artworks back to Nigeria and Benin and other African nations?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hold the same view as everybody else in terms of thinking it's long overdue and it has to happen. I had the pleasure of attending a conference last week in Zimbabwe, in Harare, hosted by the National Gallery of Zimbabwe, which Rafael will go into detail about, I'm sure. And it was, I mean, it was mind-blowing, the work and dedication that's gone into making sure that repatriation happens. It was very much a Pan-African affair. There were people from all over Africa talking about the work that they do. You know, because there's always this impression that Africa is not ready to receive its works. We're more than ready. I mean, and it shouldn't be about that. It should actually be about returning what belongs to Africa. It's our cultural equity, and it's our cultural equity where we can decide what we want to do with it ourselves. It's long overdue. I wish it was more of a Pan-African conversation in terms of the works that are returned. At the moment, it's very much about Benin. There were works that were looted from across Africa. And I think we need to keep that conversation going and to educate people about the significance of actually returning the works to the continent and the people from which it belongs. So that's my view on repatriation.
Wonderful. And if you are just tuning in, we're having a conversation with Frida Isengoma, Idile Tevie, and Rafael Chikukwa about connecting diasporic spaces. Rafael, since Frida just mentioned the National Gallery of Zimbabwe, please, can you elaborate on the conference that you held recently in Harare?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that this is a conference that started way back in 1962, which was entitled the International Congress on African Culture, that attracted many people as far as the the founding director of MoMA, Alfred Barr, others from within the continent that includes Selby Mvusi, Vincent Kofi, and many others. And later on in 2017, we decided to bring it back to Zimbabwe. And this is our third edition, where the conference was focusing on issues pertaining repatriation and restitution. And why repatriation and restitution? It's also because we feel that as National Gallery, it was long overdue for us to be able to bring African professionals to interrogate this very topical issue, and because it has remained more in the West than it's supposed to be in the continent. So it provided an opportunity to a number of African speakers that included Frida and others from the diaspora that included Mukwege. So at the conference, it was very, very topical in the sense that many people felt that there's a long-standing colonial scars that we carry as Africans. And the issue of repatriation of African artifacts, it's not negotiable. It's something which we feel as Africans that there's a need for repatriation of these objects now. And so that was basically the conference, that the views that came from the speakers are such that Africa's contribution to the global arts is very, very important, but we've not been able to harness the contribution. Like what Frida has just said, that it is our cultural equity. There's a need for the colonial masters to rethink if they want to really heal the colonial scars that we carry every day, the pain that we carry every day. And the recent developments of the repatriation of the Benin bronze is just a kind of a very small gesture, which I think many people have been celebrating, but there is more to do with repatriation of both human remains, archives, and objects. And as we are talking today, in efforts by the Germans to repatriate the human remains of the Nama and the Herero people that were killed during the genocide in Namibia. But I think as Africans, we've remained passengers in our own ship, and it is important for us to celebrate Africa in Africa. And this is the time for us to be able to lobby for these objects to be returned back to the continent and be able to celebrate and be able to benefit scholarly, financially, and those who are carrying out research. Because at the end of the day, for us to be able to look at those objects which are dotted around Europe and America, one has to declare their relatives, cats and dogs, including their ancestors who died 200 years ago, just to get a visa. And now that we've been put on the red list as Southern Africa, it's adding injuries upon permanent injuries. So the need is something which I think, and for us as National Gallery, we think from the International Conference on African Culture, it's going to be a Pan-African hub to interrogate the issues pertaining Africa and its art.
And tell me, Rafael, in what way does the National Gallery of Zimbabwe engage the local community in Zimbabwe? What sorts of programs do you have to educate the local community about Africa's own creative cultural artifacts?
Thank you very much. The National Gallery of Zimbabwe, through its public programming, we are able to educate our audience. And this is including the Harare Conversation that happens every time when we have exhibitions, and we've got a schools program that brings in schools to the National Gallery. And we are very lucky that art is now compulsory from preschool up to tertiary education. So that also is important for us to be able to tap into that knowledge. And our exhibitions that we carry out throughout the year are something which is very, very important in terms of educating our local audience. And then we also include our international audience in this with other international exhibitions that happens and the conferences that we hold at the National Gallery of Zimbabwe.
And I know, so we have a studio audience here as well, and we also have speakers listening in via Zoom. For those who are not familiar with the Biennale circuit, the Venice Biennale is probably what I like to call the Olympics of the art world in many ways. It brings together curators and artists from all over the world. And Rafael has had the distinct, the privilege and the honor of curating the Zimbabwe Pavilion for the Venice Biennale in Venice. So Rafael, can you also share with our visitors, or for our listeners, what your experience as the curator for the Venice Biennale for Zimbabwe has been to you?
Well, this has been a life-changing experience, not only for me, but for the National Gallery itself and for the...
Okay.
artists that have taken part at the Venice Biennale. It was I mooted the idea of the Zimbabwe Pavilion at the Venice Biennale, which backdates to 2001 when I arrived in Venice with Pet, a South African artist. That's when the idea was mooted. And in 2005, we tried to take the Visions of Zimbabwe exhibitions to Venice. So it wasn't the right time. I was barking at the wrong tree. And so my arrival at the National Gallery in 2010, that's when I thought it was important for African country to have its own country pavilion, because there has been a lot of misconception in terms of Africa's visibility at the Venice Biennale. I'm sure for those that are listening, Robert Stoll came out with the idea of the so-called African Pavilion. And we were saying that Africa is not a country. Africa is one of the largest continents. So that really inspired me to come out with the project to give birth to the first Zimbabwe Pavilion in Venice in 2011. And when others were thinking that it was just a once-off event, we then arrived again in 2013 and up until to 2019. And so far we've made a press release about our participation for the 2022 Venice Biennale, where we are taking 4 artists. And this time I've passed the baton to a young and dynamic curator, Fadzai Muchemwa, who is the curator for the next edition of the Zimbabwe Pavilion. And that alone, it has created visibility not only for the artists, but for the country at large. And I am pleased that what has been taking place at this platform, some of the younger artists are now signed by a number of galleries across both South Africa, Britain, and America, which I think when you take artists to the Venice Biennale, you are exposing them to a new audience. And that has been our experience as National Gallery of Zimbabwe. And our continuity is something which I think it is very important for any other African countries to consider, because you are giving platform to the artists, you are giving platform to your country, you are giving platform to audience who have not seen anything from our continent and from our artists who are working and practicing both in Africa and in the diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. And Odile, I'd love to hear your thoughts about your experience as the executive director of the Nubucke Foundation in Ghana. What sparked yourself and your co-founders' idea to start the foundation? And then I don't know if the ideas around the repatriation of artwork back to the African continent has been foundational in your thinking about how you shape your organization. But could you give us some insight on why the Nubucke Foundation and how you're supporting artists from Ghana specifically? Oh, Odile, I think you have to take yourself off mute.
Sorry. So thank you for having me. And yeah, more than 15 years ago, myself and the two co-founders, Kofi Setoji and Tutu Ajari, we felt that it was quite important for the artists in Ghana to be supported, to showcase their work in a platform that was curated from the point of view of the Ghanaian lens. We wanted to show what was important for Ghana. That was because we found a lot of the institutions that were in that space were doing it as part of their sort of diplomatic mission. So the institutes from several Western missions, diplomatic missions, were sort of taking on this mantle of showcasing art from Ghana. At the same time, we felt that Ghana was now coming into the Fourth Republic. We'd been through several economic downturns, and it just felt like a Renaissance moment where everybody was looking beyond economic woes to see how they could celebrate the country and themselves. And we started the foundation on that. We started off looking at what we needed to do. The first thing we had to do was to find artists who we needed to showcase. So creating that opportunity for artists to find their voice. Sometimes we needed to get them through programs that would enable them to hone their skills, create works. Even if they were not creating works, they had the opportunity to showcase their thinking through talks, showcase their process by interviewing them in their studios, but also just giving that the opportunity to show in our gallery. Very important in all this process was continual development for their practice. So not only showing them in an exhibition, but making sure that we were looking for opportunities for them with other institutions that we were working with or networking with, peer exchanges, bringing them together with other creative people to sort of create a bigger sort of network of artists or creative people who would feed each other with their ideas and things like that. So that has been ongoing since 2008. So we're now 15 years old, being in our current gallery space since 2008, showcasing several artists. The other thing is for me how all this feeds into the ecosystem of the art institution. Is the artist practicing, the training of the artists, ongoing, the initial training, ongoing training, and then that feeding into a system where there's patronage, people actually wanting to come in to view works, to engage with the artists, engage with their works, and show their support, because that for me was very key, to make sure that we're not just creating work or engaging with the artists for a very small audience. I mean, what I'm talking about, audience development, is still ongoing. So we're always looking at different ways in which we can, find audiences, engaging with schools, engaging with different demographics through the way that, the audience engagement, group would work. But yeah, just looking for different ways in which we nurture the audiences to come along with us, because we need to grow these audiences. I mean, when I hear about institutions in the West talking about millions of visitors, I'm like, wow, when are we going to get there? But we need to work at it. We need to work at who are these people? Why do we want them to come here? What story are we telling? Why do they need to hear it? And so as the years go, we are bringing more people in, and people are showing more interest in the creative people from their country. And so for me, that's very, very key, that we're looking back at who are these people, how do we support them, not just the support outside of the country, what the support within is important, because the effect of that spills out into who are the critics, who are the writers, what is the system that is supporting these people, especially if there are legal issues and things like that. The business side of what we're doing, that also needs to be nurtured within Ghana. So we are putting the work that we're doing out there and hoping that it becomes model for different people, but at least growing this ecosystem in a very small way and looking at where, how we can grow it to make it stronger.
Wonderful. And I guess this is a question for you all collectively, because I know that each of you know each other. Do you all work on initiatives together? Do your organizations work collaboratively?
So far, Frida and I have been talking, and we've been talking for a year now about projects, because what I feel is important, and I feel three of us also agree, is for institutions to work together. We are all growing together, and we are facing similar challenges because our countries have been through a lot of economic turmoil, which means that some of the systems don't work. And the way to surmount that is to sort of work with other institutions who might have the strength that you can build on. So institutional exchanges and things like that are quite important, not just for the artists, but also for developing the professional capacity. So Frida and I have been talking. We've been talking about the introduction to Rafael, but that hasn't happened, so it's happening now. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's very exciting to be able to have a wide network of artists to work with, institutions to share ideas with, because it can be quite difficult trying to push the institution along. So yeah, it's very welcoming.
And how about you, Rafael? Rafael, if it's that you have not yet worked with Frida or Dile, are there institutions beyond the National Gallery of Zimbabwe that you work with that are on the continent?
Thank you very much. Yes, we collaborate with a number of cultural institutions that also includes Kisa Art with Frida. And this year we launched the Friends of the Zimbabwe Pavilion, which is another project that we are now collaborating, and we've been able to get Frida over to Zimbabwe to actually strengthen that relationship and see how best we can actually continue to work together and to make our dreams a reality. We also collaborated with the Zait Smoker. I'm sure there was an exhibition called Five Bob, which was curated by Tambazani Lakama. And currently we are discussing about the collaboration possibly next year. And we have been able to bring as well the Johannesburg Art Gallery director, Kwezi Gule, to Zimbabwe to see the possible relationship that we could make between our two countries and our two institutions. I know that the Johannesburg Art Gallery is run by the city of Johannesburg, and we are a public institution that is run under the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation. So there is what I was saying to a number of visitors that came over to Zimbabwe. It's easier for us to meet in Europe than it is to meet in the continent. So the idea of collaboration is something, if people were able to do it in the 60s and 70s, why is it not possible for us to do it in the 21st century, given the new normal that we have? So it is my hope that with Odile we'll be able to work together. And I remember meeting one of the co-founders of Nubucke Foundation at the raw material company in Senegal. When the raw material company did a conversation about building art institutions in Africa. which I think is something which is very important and is still as important as it was many years ago. But what is missing is this idea of collaborating with each other. And I think a platform like this, Prizm, Art Fair, it provides us with an opportunity to dialogue further, and not only that, but to see how these dreams can be made reality. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to give our folks who are listening in today an opportunity to ask any of you questions about your organizations. So we decided to, and I wanted to give folks also some context. Frida is in the UK. Odile is in Ghana, and Rafael is in Zimbabwe. And I really wish they could have been here in person, but our current climate has presented challenges that has not allowed us to do that. So technology is allowing us to essentially solve that problem. So if any of you have any questions who are here today, and would like to ask Frida, Rafael, or Odile any questions about their organizations, I can give you the mic and we can have a conversation. Anybody? Yep, okay.
I've got a microphone here.
Okay, there we go. Derek is handling it.
During Miami Art Week, at Design Miami, there were two significant occurrences. First, Fendi has sponsored a Botswanan design organization working with local artisans. And it's right as you enter, it's the, everyone will see, everyone has seen this now that Fendi is promoting Botswanan craftspeople. The Best of Show award went to a South African organization called Southern Guild that was mostly ceramics. What does this mean for African art? What does it mean to the people who are talking, and to your guests, and to the future of what does it mean that Miami is so honoring the design, especially of African artists?
Odile, Rafael, and Frida, did you hear, what is your name? Did you hear Danny's question? Or would you like me to just summarize it for you one more time?
Yes, please summarize it. I think I got the. He said that Fendi is supporting a Botswanan organization that is.
You can go on, Adil.
Right. So Danny's question was, Fendi and other brands are supporting African designers and artists at larger fairs here in Miami, Design Miami specifically. And his question is, what does that mean for the broader conversation around African art? And what is your perspectives on that?
For me, I'm not sure what he meant by support. The Nubucke Foundation also runs a center in the Upper West region, as you mentioned at the beginning. And our work for the past 10 years or so has been with textile weavers, who are mostly women, and people working with clay. The Upper West region is 12 hours away from Accra by road. And we have a school that was set up about 40 years ago to train women in semi-broad loom weaving. And the work that we've done with them has been to take artists to do workshops and some sort of design intervention with them to overcome issues they have with supply and a whole lot of other issues. For us, it's a slow process because what we're doing is working with these women to, as I said, surmount issues that they have with supply and all kinds of things, with color and all kinds of and other things, patronage and marketing. And This year, we're doing a collaboration with a British organization called Assemble. We got a grant from the British Council. And what we're looking at is how do we work with people in remote areas if we don't physically go there to commission. So we're developing a digital platform that will allow this conversation to take place where we can give, invite patrons to work with these weavers in the Upper West. It's about opening up a market, but also finding a way in which they can be comfortable with working with people that they are not in contact with. So the nuances about color, nuances about the strength of what the final strip is going to be, all the things I think we will continue into next year. We also have a festival, an annual festival which is started this year, showcasing weavers in their own community. For me, it's really important that we are showcasing them within their community because all the things about the ecosystem will be developed within their community. And once we do that, opening up the patronage and expanding it to other markets is the next stage. But it's quite key that we're doing the support within the community. So if it's supply issues or looking for materials or additional training and all that, we're doing it, within each community. So far as art is also concerned, we expanded that last year to who are the artists who also want to push boundaries and work with materials which are around them, including weaving, anything to do with weaving. So if it's a yarn or color or, fabrics, we want to promote these artists, we want to showcase their work. So a lot of derivatives are coming out of this festival. So it's a slow process for us. We're one institution and there are not enough institutions in our country, in Ghana. So it's slow, but we welcome support if there's any.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to add to what Adil said. I think it's great, Fendi working with artists from Botswana, etc. And we've seen a lot of artists on the ground in Africa, being picked up by various galleries in different parts of the US and the UK and Europe. I think that's great, but what I think is missing a lot is the actual investment in Africa itself. It's been a lot of cherry picking of our artists and rating them to international success. We can count the artists, frankly, with two hands, but I think what's not happening is this is considered support. Artists having auction records and we represent them now in galleries, but I think there needs to be a wider support, and I think our institutions on the ground don't get the support that they need. Adil has talked about what she does in various parts of Ghana and how she's working with traditional materials and traditional artists. Rafael does incredible work in Zimbabwe, but they don't get the support, to build on that. And I think when we talk about support, we need to be very careful. What does that mean? Is it recognizing an artist's great work? There are thousands of wonderful artists on the continent. I think support needs to go on a deeper level from institution to institution. So somebody like Fendi, Cartier has also looked at African artists. I mean, a few of them have, Gucci too. A few of them have, but they haven't really gone as far as investing in the wider development of the ecosystem in Africa to support not just one artist, but several artists and several communities that could come after them. So I think, it's important that they start having discussions with institutions like the Nubucke Foundation and like the National Gallery of Zimbabwe and all the wonderful institutions on the ground to see how they can develop and hopefully scale African ideas, not just within the diaspora, but within their own regions.
And I would actually like to ask another question that maybe dovetails to Danny's question. Are there, say, corporate institutions within Africa that are African, like, say, You know, I know Dangote is like a huge, he's doing quite well. Do institutions like that support, you know, West African institutions? What are African companies doing to support African cultural institutions?
So this was a conversation we had many times last week in Zimbabwe with various people, and Adil and I have talked about this, and that's one of the things that I'm dedicated to doing at Peace, is actually to get more institutions, corporate institutions involved in the art ecosystem, whether it's them building a corporate collection or sponsoring certain initiatives for our institutions, or even, you know, patronizing institutions, but also patronizing artists. These are the conversations we need to have. There are corporate institutions on the ground doing good work, great work. There's Morgan & Co. in Zimbabwe. South Africa, there's F&B. Standard Bank have a great collection. They're a big sponsor of the arts. Investec now sponsor the arts as well. They sponsor the Cape Town Art Fair. Then in Nigeria, you've got Access Bank. They're two sponsors of ArtX Lagos. And there are a few other institutions banking institutions in Nigeria that also support the arts. There definitely needs to be a bigger drive towards supporting the arts on the ground in Africa, particularly as a lot of our governments don't support the arts as much as we would like. So those conversations are happening. It takes time, but we definitely are working on it.
Wonderful. Well, if there are no further questions, I will close out this conversation. We have two other subsequent panels, but I want to thank you, Frida, Odile, and Rafael, for your time. I know you're on the other side of the planet, and it's probably midnight in Zimbabwe at this point, and a little bit earlier for you and for Frida and Odile. So thank you for your time. I always enjoy our conversations, and I look forward to being in touch with you again soon. And again, this conversation was brought to you by our supporters, the Green Family Foundation, the Knight Foundation, the Miami-Dade Department of Cultural Affairs, Dashboard, as well as the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs. And we will take a 5-minute break and begin our next panel shortly.
Thank you. Thanks.